So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. A podcast I didn't think I'd be doing this soon, specifically after I did a podcast earlier on today on Jacob Ramsey already. But things move fast in the game of football, and it seems that things have moved really, really fast on this one. A lot of conjecture and talk, well, not conjecture, but I suppose really, really educated conversation this morning from Jacob Tanswell and a couple of other reporters saying that Jacob Ramsey was not going, or that there was an impasse with regards to signing a new contract and Jacob Ramsey. And I jumped on this morning and I tried to parse my thoughts on it, because whenever I do something like that, and I regularly do it after we lose games, I suppose, more so, but this is one of the first times I've done it during a transfer, because I was really, and I still am kind of struggling to know whether it's the right thing to let him go or not, because I know from a financial point of view, we'll get to that in a moment. It is a financial windfall, if you want to call it that. But it's just, once again, and I will say it, and I know, we can't change the rules now, but it's this for me is another one of those reasons why the rules stink from a PSR point of view, because we can't hold on to a player that is grew up 5 minutes down the road, 5 miles down the road from Villa Park, and we have to sell him just because he is pure profit. But Jacob Ramsey looks like he is on his way to Newcastle United for £40 million. Fabrizio Romano is reporting it, and he's talking about here we go being pretty likely soon. Whether you guys believe Fabrizio Romano and everything that comes up or not, 99.999% of the time he is correct. And for new listeners to the podcast and stuff, we had Fabrizio on the podcast previously, back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 2020, 2021? It was the same year that Jack Grealish was sold. So do the maths on that. It's too late for me, and I was up too early this morning. And so he has put out a tweet just this evening. I'll tell you, it was 14 minutes ago, actually. It says, I understand that Newcastle are closing in on Jacob Ramsey deal with Aston Villa. Agreement almost done for £40 million package as clubs are finalising the deal. And then here we go. Despite a West Ham approach, Ramsey only wants Newcastle, as Newcastle United FC move is now imminent. So it does look like Jacob Ramsey will be off, and will be off to Newcastle United. And as I say, I don't know how long I'm going to stay on about this, but it feels like since the news broke, and I spoke so much about it today, I did want to come on and kind of draw a line under it, I suppose. I'm still not 100% comfortable with having to sell our academy prospects, and specifically somebody like Jacob Ramsey that has broken through. I'm still a big believer that football should be about, there should be a colloquial aspect to football. There should be a localized aspect to football, no matter how big the game grows. I still want to have their romance. People, you can call me bonkers if you want. I don't really care, and that's not, denigrating anyone else. But for me, at 40 years of age, and I people have DM'd me going, why are you so hung up on the Jacob Ramsey thing? And the reason being is because he is he's the last of our very saleable homegrown assets that we will get this money for. So he is and it's because of his contract that we've sold him. But you would be hoping that he would reach his potential with us and move on. I think he hasn't reached his potential, but he will reach his potential somewhere else. So I think that now Newcastle are going to profit from this, just like Newcastle were a victim of this too, when Elliot Anderson had to move on for PSR reasons. Now they moved him on for 60 million. We moved Jacob Ramsey on for 40 million. So my big thing here is about maximizing the value. Is 40 million the right number for Jacob Ramsey? I think it is. I would have been disappointed with 30. And once again, I think, Aston Villa can then go out and use this 40 million to strengthen. But for me, the telescope and the microscope, should I say, will be on who they do strengthen with. We've also already been linked with Marco Asensio. And I think we will need more than just Marco Asensio, obviously, because Jacob Ramsey playing from that left-hand side. But look, the boy Jacob Ramsey wanted to stay with that. Well, I know when I say he wanted to stay with Aston Villa, people would say, well, why didn't he sign a new contract? So I don't know. But he's an Aston Villa fan. He grew up 5 miles down the road. And I keep on coming back to that because, it's when you've got a nucleus of those players, it'll all come back to the fact that it's me just realizing, and I know it's just me realizing, so I'm not trying to convince anyone, but it's me realizing that the likelihood of there ever being a class of 92 again, where you're able to get multiple players through, outside of Barcelona, maybe because of their club run or their community run ethos, but it's very unlikely that you'll be able to get a bunch of 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds through your academy up to your first team and have them all play and stay together for a concerted period of time. And it's really because of a financial fair play rule that has the words fair play in it that don't really instigate any fair play within financial realms, specifically when you're when the rules are so stringent and lack a level of broadness that everybody speaks about, and I won't go into it all. But Jacob Ramsey has just been the realization point, I think, for me that we were under 18 winning cup team. Some of them may not get into our first team, but if they do, don't fall in love with them, because 2 years later they're going to be gone to another club. That's what the devil on my shoulder is saying. And it's tipped over there because it would have always been the optimistic side of saying, listen, if we can build around the George Hemmings, a Ben Bragio, Jim Oloba, and if they can reach their talent, well, then that's brilliant. That's 3 or 4 players we have in our team that can supplement our team. Then it means that we don't need to replace players. And, if we keep on succeeding and going on the way to do Unai Emery is, well, then, that's 3 players less that we are, and even a Tristan Rowe, that's 4 players less that we have to buy going forward. That's brilliant that we can build that nucleus. Time will tell if that will be the case. Because there is no incentive to progress your young players through and to keep them at the club. And this is tales all the time with PSR. I'm not the first person to mention this, but the old romantic in me always held out hope that potentially you could do that. But anyway, 40 million off Ramsey off to Newcastle. It seems for 40 million. We will see if that late night breaking news piece from Fabrizio Romano does ring true. But as I said, the microscope will be on replacements. Potentially look like as well, if this allows us to go out and sign another centre half and get Marco Asensio and maybe take a punt or a shot on somebody from to come in that can a younger player that maybe can come in and play left wing, right wing as well. But when you sit down, you kind of write everybody out. You on the right hand side, like if Bailey goes as well, or even if Bailey stays, if Bailey goes, let's just say as well, and Buendia stays, like on the right hand side, you're looking at Daniel Mallon, John McGinn, and Evan Gassan to play that position. They can all play that position competently. Down the middle, if Asensio comes in, then you've got Asensio, Buendia. They can play that position competently. They may not be everybody's cup of tea, and people may see flaws in them, and that's fine. That's a conversation for another day. And then off the left-hand side, then you've got Morgan, and obviously Morgan Rogers can play through the centre. Then off the left-hand side, you've got Morgan Rogers and Evan Gassan that can play off that side as well. And if you really want to throw somebody in the mix there, that would be a bolter that, might be a stretch. Jamaldine Jim Oloba has played there against Villarreal as well. But I think that will be a stretch to have him as an integrated member of the first team just yet. So we do have cover, but an injury leaves us short in that aspect. So this 40 million, if this rumor is true, and if this breaking news piece is true, this 40 million will have to be invested and be reinvested wisely. And saying that, if we think about the attacking positions that we have made, the attacking reinforcements that Monchi and Unai Emery have bought in, and once again, it's been a long day, but off the top of my head, I can't think of too many attacking signings that have been made in Unai Emery's tenure that haven't worked out in one way or another. Some of them might have worked out and then tapered off, a la Asensio. But there have been none of them that I can think of that haven't been at least successful in some way. Obviously, John Duran being a super success in the 77 million sale. Marcus Rashford was successful with us last year. Asensio was successful. Daniel Malen, in his own way, I know that he didn't contribute to what we wanted, but has absolutely all the potential to be successful there as well. Morgan Rogers has been incredibly successful. Time will tell about Evan Gassand as well, and then potentially if somebody comes in as well. So, like, I think I've covered everyone that's been signed under Unai Emery in the attacking positions there, and they do have an eye for somebody who fits into this squad and the system. So, you know, I am pretty hopeful that they can get somebody in there that will be able to, and will be able to reinvest that 40 million in the squad somewhere or another. Now, also as well, guys, to play devil's advocate and to play the pessimist here as well, which I'm not very comfortable ever really doing. As you guys know, I am glass half full. Some of you love to remind me that I need to cut myself on at times, and that's fine. But I do live my life with the sunny side definitely out 9 times out of 10. But the pessimist, the tiny little pessimist in me might say that, is this 40 million just playing for Evan Gassand? You know, is this the money that's going to pay for Evan Gassand? And then are we actually only left with 10 million to spend in the transfer window? 3 weeks will tell. 2.5 weeks will tell, I suppose, with regards to that. But look, either way, as I say, this is news. It's newsworthy, and it's worthy of, I think, of a discussion point in itself, considering he is the last big academy prospect really to come through for us and to have a meaningful tenure with the club. As I said before, some of you guys might have missed it: 167 games, 106 starts, and 34 goal contributions between goals and assists. He had a pretty decent career, and even though people might say, and people have said to me quite a lot today, it's said he's done nothing for us in the last 2 years. Very much so, not because of lack of form or lack of ability, very much so down to coming back from an absolutely brutal foot injury, which kept on being re-injured due to the nature of the initial break. And that foot injury kept him out for, I went through it in the last podcast, kept him out for nearly 14 months on and off, and then working your way back from that. So for me, I think he's an extremely talented player. I think he has he's well able to drive with the ball at his feet. He's got a nice physical stature. I think over time he will definitely be able to play, or even like maybe we just haven't seen enough of it, play through the centre as well. And I think Newcastle have got a nice signing for 40 million. He is a Newcastle type signing, I will say. And for a lot of people who've said to me as well, you know, oh, he's going there to get a lot of minutes. I think his minutes will have to come from the middle of the field, because you've got a Harvey Barnes, you've got Anthony Gordon. They can play in those wing positions, and you've got Anthony Elanga as well there. So the pathway for him to start in this Newcastle team is not as evident as people may think, because Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes are very highly thought of for obvious reasons. And obviously they've just signed Anthony Elanga as well. They've got Joe Linton, they've got Tonali, they've got what's the other fella there? Oh, my mind is mush at the moment. Bruno Guimaraes as well in that middle of midfield. So I think he's probably got a better chance of starting left wing for Aston Villa currently at the moment than he does starting for Newcastle. But look, if he does go, and if this is true, more power to him. He's, you know, if he breaks his way into that Newcastle team, he'll have done a great job, and he'll probably be up for England consideration, just like arguably he was prior to his injury in 2023, 2024. So I'm not going to bore you guys with more of my machinations as well here with regards to this. I'm going to come to some of your comments, and apologies, I didn't get to all of the comments last time, and I won't get to all these as well. Stephen O'Leary says 40 million is a good deal. His goal and assist output hasn't been great either. I beg to differ. I think that's a pretty good output for somebody who spent most of last year coming off the bench. And from 106 starts to have 34 goal and assist contributions, I think is pretty decent. Last year wasn't great. He had only 1 goal and 5 assists. But, 106 starts, 34 goals and assists, you're talking a 1-in-3 ratio there, more or less, for somebody who's only 24 years of age and played the most part of his football between the age of 19 and 22. I think that's pretty impressive to have a 1-in-3, to be honest. But yes, I can agree that last year 1-in-5 wasn't what we expected. But coming back from that injury. I will hold firm on coming back from that injury being the reason why we saw a downturn in form last year as well. Christopher Trotter said if he wasn't a Villa boy, it's a no-brainer, but he is, and it sucks. Good luck to him. That's exactly been my argument. The reason that I've been so fervent in discussing this is essentially because it is the death of the romance of having 4, 3, 4, 5 homegrown players in your team, because unless you're incredibly successful straight off the bat, they're just going to be poached straight away, and they're going to be seen as cannon fodder, because like there's no way in the world anybody could sit with a straight face and tell me if it came down to selling Leon Bailey or Jacob Ramsey, which one would they sell? And based on talent, it would be Leon Bailey. But basically here it forces you, or it incentivizes you to sell your homegrown talents by the likes of Jacob Ramsey because of pure profit. And look, there's no, I don't need to get into that, but it is worth highlighting the context for it as well. Darren C says, really hope it's 40 million up front and not something trickled over 5 years. I would be, if it's 40 million up front, I would be blown over with a feather. I cannot see any reason why it would be 40 million up front. Number one, the Fabrizio Romano says it's a package, and if we are to believe that is, his tweet, that is the case. But just football transfers aren't done in upfront 40 million straight away. But that's not to say that the club won't be able to amortize signings coming in as well to match the payments coming in too as well. So it doesn't really matter. I don't think whether it's upfront, as long as it's not now. If it's trickled out over 5 years, that is a bit of a pain in the arse. I don't think Villa will do that. But then again, we never find out how those deals are done. There's a lot of speculation usually. And that usually comes whenever Chelsea are signing people usually, or United. But we'll see we'll see if any news like that breaks out. But I'd be blown away if it was 40 million up front. I really, really would. And Saran No Mind says Champions League football. That's what it boils down to. It boils down to us shit in the bed last day of the season against Manchester United, is financial pressure. And then also we don't have that carrot to wave in front of players as well, maybe to get them to stay with us for and not have to sign new contracts or massively lucrative new contracts. But we move, the club will still be here, as I say, and we'll move as well. Where else are we? Aaron Cunningham says Asensio's wages too high. I've no idea. I suppose realistically, if you wanted to parse that with, let's say Fenerbahce don't come in for him, or he doesn't want to go to Fenerbahce, and you lower the transfer, the actual amount you pay for him, and you take him on a 2-year deal, and you can mitigate the wages through that way. I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not worried about anybody's, that's an accountant's job. That's an accountant's job. For me, and to be honest with you, as I say, the only site on the internet that gives us players' wages, or that claims to give us player wages, is Capology, but that is the most unreliable site in the whole world. And anybody who follows the podcast will know why I think that. I don't want to go into it again, but my story about John McGinn's wages. Where else are we? I'm going to scroll down here as well. There was one there. Daniela says, can he be registered in time to play against us? To be honest with you, I would imagine Villa will draw the living daylights out of this, and that it won't actually be done in time to play against us. I wouldn't imagine Newcastle would be like, no, you had your signs before 12 noon on, I think it would have to be on Thursday, if we're playing that early on Saturday. I think it would have to be done on Thursday, by Thursday evening. I think there's some rule with the amount of time that registrations have to be in for, specifically if it's a 12:30 game. If it's a 3 o'clock game, I think it might be different. Again, I'm open to correction on that. That's weeds that I don't walk in with regards to legislation in the Premier League. But I'd imagine Villa will draw the arse out of it anyway until the end. But they'll probably have the agreement in principle and stuff like that. And but the contracts mightn't actually finally be signed. But it would be madness to have him play against us at the weekend. It really would be absolutely insanity. And I don't think it would be a game breaker for Newcastle either. From that point. Look, as Dennis says here, if Asensio comes in that 10 position, you move Rodgers to the left. Well, put it this way. The way things are stacking up, it looks like Rodgers won't ever be playing on the right again. So there's your silver lining for a lot of people. because I think Gassan will be predominantly played from the right along with Malin, although the Gassan will be manoeuvred in and around that front line. I think for sure he can play 10. He can play anywhere there in that front four positions. But we know that Morgan Rogers is better coming from the wing or playing from the centre, coming from the left wing or playing from the centre. And look, that's a debate in itself. I know it's not a debate I'm trying to start, but as I say, a lot of people are saying definitely no to the right. Well, then if you sell Jacob Ramsey, you got to move Morgan Rogers to the left. I think that or play him centrally with Gassan on the left, even if Gassan mostly comes from the right. Look, there's a lot of a transfer window there left to go. So before we start flapping our arms about who should be playing where and where people should only be played more so than anywhere else, even if they are versatile. So that is the case. Where else are we? I'm just going to scroll down there. Andrew Monroe. Yeah, we all love the signings of Gassan, Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby, etc. Our academy players are paying for it. We can't have both. Yeah, I kind of half agree. And the reason that I think the players that you've mentioned there aren't all the reason. Sorry, should I say aren't all the reason? But I know exactly what your sentiment here is, Andrew. I know exactly what the sentiment here is that like Moussa Diaby paid for himself. Essentially, like we bought him, we sold him for a small bit more. He wiped his face essentially. John Duran covered a load of other things, and Moussa Diaby is somebody that as well. Once again, Monchi and Unai, I completely forgot about him. Monchi and Unai brought him in, and he was he was successful in his way. Yes, was he frustrating for some people? Yeah, but his output from goals and assists was really good, even if people thought he was too small for the league, and which was a fair argument that people could have had. But I think really, look, we are getting out from underneath the transfer windows of the Buendia, Bailey, Ings transfer window, and then the subsequent transfer windows of Coutinho, Robin Olsen, Ludwig Augustinsson, Jan Bednarak, all those utterly failed transfer windows, really, I think has to be said. You got to pay the piper at some stage, and that's kind of where we are at the moment. There are successful players we've brought in, and I think Gassan is yet to be seen, but Pau Torres is a relative success at Aston Villa, regardless of if he's got frailties, absolutely. And people may prefer Mings, that's okay. But Pau Torres, Jan Bednarak, Pau Torres are a multitude of centre halves that we've brought in here over the last 30 years. Pau Torres is probably in the top 9 centre halves that we've had at Villa in the last 25 years. So, and yes, I know what you mean about the money and stuff like that, but I think it's players that we were enticing in, giving them big wages, and just not working out for us. Not working out for us in that aspect, because we weren't getting the success in the field. The three players, or two of the three players there, have brought us relative success from the league position point of view. So, but I completely get your sentiment. I'm being semantic about it, and once again, still talking through the process myself here as well. Where else are we? I'm apologies. I am scrolling here. So if I miss somebody's comments here, I missed them. I do apologize. I'll go back and I'll try and read them afterwards. Josh, great to see you, Josh. Josh says hopefully Canvo comes in the door as well. Yeah, maybe. Look, once again, 40 million. Asensio, like if somehow we were able to wriggle 3 players out of 40 million to come in and supplement the squad, you've got a JD Canvo comes in, or Canvot, I don't know how to pronounce it. You've got an Asensio comes in, and then another. And I know, look, Alexis Salamakers is probably conjecture more so than anything else, but I'm just picking people off the top of my head. But if you could stretch that 40 million to 3 players, is that the best thing to do? Probably not in my book. I think you need I think you need to have a decent replacement. But then again, Jacob Ramsey would have been next man up in that left wing position. It would have been up to him to make that position his, and which I think he could have done, and we could have moved Rodgers into the centre, which would have been my preferred starting left and number 10 setup. But yeah, as I say, it's going to be like the microscope really, really comes down on the redistribution of that 40 million now. If it gets sold, if it gets spent, if it gets saved till January, or like the one thing that would be really deflationary for me would be to a point, not massively deflationary, but would be if they came out and said, well, Jacob Ramsey was sold to satisfy the UEFA rules, and like Diaby was, and basically we never see that money do anything for the club again. That would be a bit of a pisser for me. Like the Diaby money is kind of like this Bermuda Triangle of where did it go? All it did was to satisfy, like it satisfied our SCR rules for the UEFA competition that year, but arguably you could ask, was it ever reinvested, or could it have ever been reinvested from the balance sheet? I don't know is the answer. And you could point to potentially that's what we used to sign Onana, but it didn't seem like it, or maybe we signed Onana and then we had to pay for it. But look, we'd have to go back and look at that again. But at the time, it was mentioned by Damian Vidagani that was used to cover the SCR delta that we had from what we needed to have to where we needed to be for UEFA competition and getting back into the Conference League that time, or the Champions League. Champions League that time. So yeah, interesting. In your head, change man, have you no air conditioning? I absolutely don't. It's like Satan's sauna inside here. It really, really is. Air conditioning I do not have in my for the love of Paul McGrath layer here. And plus I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens. I've got 3 lights. I've got 3 laptops and a tumble dryer in the room. So this is hotter than hell at the moment. And yes, I am sweating, like insert crass analogy here. Really, I am sweating buckets here, and I'm not finished yet. So Gazooks is saying it went on Onana, but I'm just saying that I remember Damian Vidagani saying that it didn't, that it went on. I'm paying forward for the SCR stuff, so I don't know. Like, once again, it could have been invested in Onana, but I would hate if the line was trotted out and we didn't do extra business this year outside of Asensio, that it was like, oh, well, we had to pay the piper. We had to pay this forward, for SCR. Because for me, then it would be a real kick in the nuts, because you're selling a player who I think has more potentially than some other people here in the chat do, and that's fine. I'm not trying to convince anyone here, as I say. People can fan whoever they want, and my opinion isn't always right either. Obviously, you completely understand that. But I think that, like, if we weren't to reinvest that money and it was going to pay the piper, really, again, it makes a mockery of the academy system just being used as a credit card, essentially, as to pay the credit card, should I say, because we did it with Omari Kellyman, we did it with this guy, we did it with Timur Bunum, so it's I want to see our academy be successful for Aston Villa and not for other clubs. But yes, as I say, it's very, very possible that it did go on Onana. Exactly. Right, lads. I'm Paddy, good to see you in the comments. I'm not flashing that one up on the screen, but yeah, that one did make me laugh. Right, I am okay. So before we go, I'll do this one because I do have to record Villa AM as well after this and get that one out. In case you don't know what Villa AM is and you're living under a rock, it's an 8-minute roundup of all the news that happened the day before, and it'll be available from 5 a.m. on your podcast providers and 7:30 a.m. on YouTube. Every single weekday morning, anyway. Might give myself a break at the weekends. We'll see how it goes. But Josie says, Neil, how many players do you think we'll get in what positions? I think a right centre back, a left winger, and probably Asensio. That's exactly what I think. If we could stretch this 40 million plus whatever crumbs we can find in the back of the cupboard, to get those three positions. And I'm not even saying starters. I'm saying people that we can get to come in here that we think can grow through. I'm not talking about a Garcia type. I'm not talking about an Nedeljkovic type. I'm not talking about an Ashkan type, because once again, I don't want to even get into those guys, because if we're selling a Jacob Ramsey, who was 167 games, 106 starts and 34 goals and assists for Aston Villa for 40 million, and yet we're bringing in players that I also think are pretty decent in Yashin Özkan and Andres Garcia, and not really seeing any reinvestment. For the fans aren't seeing investment on the field. The only thing you're actually seeing is the numbers in the balance sheet. That's kind of making it a bit shit, the whole transfer window. But I'm hoping that we can bring people in that can be at this stage. And I know exactly people are going to start shouting wages, and that's fine. That's for someone else to worry about. But at this stage, I'm okay with like a Clement Longley type signing in defence, an Asensio signing, and maybe another up and coming left wing signing. As well. And I know I've just said about the Ludwig Augustensons and the Jan Bednareks and stuff like that, but make these signings work, is what I'm thinking there. Obviously I know that's not going to happen. So just like I'm kind of okay with filling meaningful squad fillers is what I'm saying here for two of those positions, I suppose, in the right centre back role. A meaningful squad filler for across that front three, but predominantly on the left wing position, and then Asensio to come in there as well. And I think pretty much, I know a lot of people might be talking about right back as well, but I think unless one of the right backs moves, I don't think we're going to be doing much in that position. Albeit Garcia was mooted with going. Right. I think I have spoken enough on Jacob Ramsey for probably ever. I think I've probably spoken about him more than most people have this today. I've done a full hour on Jacob Ramsey between two podcasts. Thanks a million to everybody for listening to my ramblings. I do really appreciate it. So I'm going to log off on that. I'm going to sign off, should I say? But look, it's a shame. It's a shame still. Just to round up that we will be losing a homegrown talent in Jacob Ramsey. That's two of the three Ramsey brothers gone. Aaron Ramsey, obviously, his injury setbacks at Burnley still, and now Jacob Ramsey looks to be on his way up to the north of England, and that leaves us with Cole Ramsey still in the academy, and I don't know if there's another one, but there's Cole Ramsey still in the academy. So what could have been a thriving front trio or attacking midfield trio is now whittled down to one left. Then there was one. So let's see what happens there as well. Thanks a million, everyone. Thanks for always checking in and for always watching. We'll be back. I don't know when I get to anything tomorrow unless something massive breaks. But we'll be back again definitely on Thursday night with a Newcastle preview. And then, as I say, if anything breaks, we'll try and get something out as well. So thanks a million for your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.